Okay, so this is the real thing. So when we do use the military, it brings war destruction and it brings complete chaos of democracy, of the rule of law. And of course, they send that token black woman to Africa, even though Africans will never see Kamala Harris as anything afraid, okay, because America again is out of touch with Africa and what the continent needs. So they thought this was their best option. It would have been better to send the president himself.
Needs to protect its own interests and push ahead in Africa if China and Russia are not to have too much influence. The United States tends to link any aid or investment with, it says it likes to ensure that there are democratic principles. That has put off in the past some African leaders from.
So, nearly 99% of African nations do not like, I take that back. What she's trying to say, people like, says Francis NATO of the U.S., is America like to top down to African nations, like to export culture and democracy, even though we have no leverage to export democracy anymore. See, we always have a contingent. We make threats. Okay, do this or else you don't get aid. Talk about human rights abuses or else you don't get aid. There's always a caveat. There's always a threat that comes with Africa and aid from the United States. And people are sick of that. They're sick of it. They don't want America exporting hypocrisy because they see what's happening in the West. We are a globalized world now, okay? They see then democracy being severely eroded, the rule of law in America being degraded, eroded, okay? They see that. They see what's happening to the former president. They see what happened on January 6th. They see what happened in Tennessee. They see our national democratic process being corrupted. They see it and they now appreciate of it. And then we want to go there and talk about LGBTQ issue. Why the people are just trying to feed their people.
Partnerships with the US, autocratic African leaders prefer perhaps to throw in their lot with China, which have a non-intervention policy, isn't really interested in how things are run so long as everybody gets what they signed up to get, mercenary army there. And so these are all current influences in Africa. Cyril Ramaphosa, on a recent visit to Washington, said, "We will choose the people with whom we associate." And he made very clear that there would be no exclusive partnerships, he thought, amongst African countries and major powers. They might choose to ally themselves with this country for this country for that. There will be no exclusivity. So that's something key.
Actually, that is very small. That is very small. The African nations should not be beholden to any one trading partner. Okay, none. They should not have an exclusive partnership with Russia, no exclusive partnership with China or the United States. They should select what is the most beneficial for them. If security focus, if it's the United States when it comes to security, work with the US for security. When it comes to trade, work with the EU, work with China. When it comes to raw material, when it comes to infrastructure, this is a smart path for African nation. Okay, because it will only hurt them. Just choose one. Because remember, there is a new Cold War. There's a new Cold War, and China and the United States and Russia will not sit idly by for one of them to take primary control of the resources in Africa, since everybody's so largely dependent on it. If Africa choose China, America and its ally will create war and instability in those countries that they believe matter the most to their stability. If they choose China, same will go. If they choose the United States and Russia, it will happen the same. The best thing they can do is stay neutral and choose partnership based on what they can get from the partners. What's best for Africa and what's best for the partners. Because the reality of globalism, Russia, China, and the United States actually need Africa more than Africa needs them. Okay, Africa have the knowledge to be a first world continent. Now, many of that knowledge is concentrated in the West, but those can come back. We can go back if given time. But starting a war that would destabilize the continent, that is the power that the West, Russia, China, and the US still holds.
To take account of. And here we are, Washington, pushing ahead, trying to further its own interests in Africa as it watches Russia and China mount. Another key reason which has injected some kind of urgency into this is that the recent votes on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. If you look at the countries that abstained in that vote, half of them were from Africa. So in terms of world geopolitics, it's good to have favorable relationships with African countries. So that's another key reason as well.
Yeah, but nobody give a shit about the UN resolution. Okay, everybody knows the only thing that matters when it comes to global stability and global war is the UN Security Council. Okay, the members in the UN Security Council, they the one that start wars, they the one that sustain wars, they the one that actually destroy everything. And those nations that is in the UN Security Council manual, again, it's the same people we're talking about. The United States, China, Russia, Great Britain, France, and Germany. 6 of them. Okay. They're the one that gets to control everything. They're the one that are in the nuclear powers. They're the one that can flex their muscle. They're the one that can actually sustain war. So the vote in the General Assembly means absolute dick. Okay. But again, it matters to the Western people, but it doesn't matter to people that see what the origin of all major wars and conflict and destabilization is across the world. It's come from the people in the Security Council.
Well, it's also the country of the future, very young population, which is just going to become more and more dominant in the world.
So I suppose that's sort of the continent-wide perspective here, Angela. But what about the 3 countries that Kamala Harris is visiting on this trip? Ghana, Tanzania, and Zambia. Why that?
Yeah, Ghana is a relatively stable country in terms of its democracy. It's been really relatively successful, had several very successful transitions from one leader to another. And that is...
to me, it's America and the CIA or the British intelligence or the French. They not try to create coup in the last decade. That's what she's saying, pretty much. Okay, Ghana has been on the radar for a while now, but Ghana has been very, very visible to people. A lot of African-American Black people are moving back to Ghana. Okay, Ghana have the power for citizenship, okay, for any African diaspora to come back and become citizen of Ghana. And it's been very successful. And you know what? She won't say it, but I will fucking say it. They are doing the money math. They're doing the money. They're looking at how much money is being sent to Africa. Now they're trying to find a way to reverse that money because people are leaving the United States to start a business in Africa. They're taking their retirement earning, they're building homes, they're building infrastructure in Africa, taking money out of the economic system. And they're trying to jump ahead of that before it becomes a global phenomenon. That's all they're doing. They're trying to find out where the money is going. That's why they're choosing those countries. Because those countries are the most visible when it comes to people returning back, okay? Returning back to the continent.
A key point about Ghana. Nevertheless, recently it's been having trouble with its economy. It's now got inflation at above 50%. It is looking to the IMF. It wants to try to restructure its debts. It's in big trouble, and America thinks it might be able to help out there and also to...
Oh, yes. America is coming to the rescue from the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. You know, the country, the company, the bank that will give America huge loan at low interest, but African nation, higher interest. They are backward way of controlling the world. And that now, see, I told you, it was about money. It's about money. America sees an opportunity to reinsert itself into Ghana through influential pressure from the IMF. It's going to be a dual prong. It's going to be from the IMF. It's going to be from the United States. The only hope Ghana will have, and I hope that's a strategic plan, that China step in and provide the loan to pay off the IMF. Because the IMF restructuring the loan doesn't just come about economic. It comes with social, political changes. They be expecting human rights agreement. They be talking about things that have nothing to do with money. They will use this as an opportunity to export social justice warrior conversation, social issue, human rights issue that have no place in Africa alone. Okay, but that's the whole plan. And the United States is going to be pushing that because I know that's what she did her first speech on this trip to Africa. She talked with the LGBTQ community like that is something Africa give a crap about. That's conversation we have in the U.S. when we are so contented. We have been doing so well. We do so well that we have time to argue about irrelevant things. Okay, Africa don't have the luxury right now to argue about LGBTQ community, LGBTQ issue when people can barely feed. So let's give them the basic need first. Then we can have conversations.
So that's one of the key reasons.
The IMF can forgive the debt. That's an option because, Russia did it. The IMF can actually do that. America can pay that debt. But we know that's not the whole idea. They understand debt is power. The lender, the borrower is slave to the lender. They know as long as African nations are indebted to the IMF, that means they're indebted to the international community, the power broker of the United States, they control those countries. That means the power still resides in the West, not in Africa.
Zambia, Tanzania also have economic problems, and some of these countries have minerals. Zambia is very copper-rich and has other critical minerals. Tanzania has lithium. There are mining contracts here. There is a big opportunity for business investment, which could benefit both sides and give those governments the cash to deliver better.
No, it won't benefit both sides. It will benefit us more than it will benefit them, because the interest rate, the trade will not favor the African nation, okay? It will not favor because, when these companies come and start doing a deal, start mining, there will not be a negotiation between or the joint venture. It won't be a joint venture between these nations and the U.S. companies. It will be them coming down, doing all the real lifting, all the intellectual work, all the key position will be filled by Americans. The manual labor will be filled by the African, gaining almost nothing.
Social improvements for their populations. So, as always, it could be a win-win situation. It's up to these governments to negotiate for their own national interests.
Angela Diffley, thanks very much indeed, and we'll have some more analysis on Kamala Harris's trip.
Yep, that's how it goes. That's how it goes. All it goes like this, they go over there and they start talking about social issue. They talk about win-win, for some reason, global superpowers always have this idea of win-win. There is no win-win when you have the power. There is no win-win when the leverage is in the hands of the global elites. But of course, it's coming from the Western media, so it's a win-win. It just makes me so mad. There's just no transparency, no truth in the conversation. There is no win-win.
Finland, officially now, as of this afternoon, a member of NATO. Sure, what are the wider implications of their membership?
Yeah, it's easy just to think they're the 31st member of NATO, but it's actually far from that. This is pretty significant. First of all, it extends NATO's direct border with Russia. It's only an extra 800 miles, but...
Yeah, he said only extra. 800 miles. 800 miles. This red you guys see here, that's Russia. Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia are over here. Okay? This is Finland that just became a NATO ally. Sweden has petitioned. Everything from that red is all NATO. Like I said, Russia would never have to leave this area when they go into conflict with us, because guess what? This is all control. This is the path. One of the few paths Russia has to get to saltwater ocean. They will not have to go through. NATO allies. This conflict between Russia and the United States become a defensive war for Russia in an offensive war, because we have already pre-staged units. We have units all over this place. We have bases in Poland. Okay. And we already created a system of destabilization of Russia, war of attrition in Ukraine. Pretty significant, pretty significant. It's going to have the unintended consequences. It's going to have a negative effect. It's going to actually in Russia. Actually, it's going to actually play to the fear that Russia has.
More than doubles the direct border, which is significant.
Double.
It's also Finland, ever since World War II, has been neutral. When during World War II, the former Soviet Union invaded Finland, but at the end of the war, it was agreed that Finland would remain neutral to keep a buffer zone between East and West. And even just before the war, Finland's population, less than a third of them wanted to join NATO. Literally straight after the invasion, 80% wanted to join. And that's why you've seen this rush to secession. From a Russian perspective, they've said they'll bolster their defensive systems if they see NATO deploying forces in Finland. And it's been relatively muted response.
It's not muted response. Okay. He said they're going to bolster that defensive. Already proving my point. Every nation that become a NATO ally put Russia in a more defensive posture. You got Ukraine here, okay? All of this, NATO, minus that small, I believe that is Kaliningrad right there. Actually, it's not Kaliningrad. That's probably, yes, that is the Kamara Peninsula. This should be the Donbass region. If I'm not wrong, somebody correct me.
Actually, that would be quite wrong to misinterpret that. Putin will be very concerned about NATO expanding because he didn't want NATO to expand. He's inherited quite the opposite. And also, it's quite a long border up here. And if they do have to put military forces up there, he actually hasn't got enough military forces for Ukraine at the moment, let alone mounting defense on that border.
Yeah, as Ian Stoltenberg put it, Putin today got more NATO, which, as you said, is the exact opposite of what he wanted. Remind us how we got to this point today.
Interesting, just looking back, so 1949, the first 12 founding members of NATO, so include the US over there. But the point is that they're...
Look at that. 1949, Russia is comfortably buffered by Sweden, Finland, Sweden. You see all this white space, and Ukraine. All of them give Russia a very comfortable land buffer between NATO allies and Russia. That is very key. Okay, we told over all of this in that time frame, creating the fear that the Russians always was concerned about.
There's a huge buffer zone here between the West, NATO, and the former Soviet Union. But of course, in 1990, four of the Soviet Union, all of a sudden, a lot of these nations in between suddenly went, we're looking for security. The key ones, the Baltic states here, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, that all chose to join NATO. As a result, we had a direct border then with NATO itself. Now, of course, Putin's invasion of Ukraine was deliberately just an effort to stop Ukraine also falling to NATO and massively expanding and it also showed the vulnerability of nations like Finland and Sweden, which led to their decision. I think there's a note of caution here, though. The use of the word celebration of Finland's accession to NATO. In a way, there's an inevitable consequence of Putin's invasion of Ukraine, but there will be consequences for NATO's expansion, not least of which that will increase tensions between East and West. We don't have the buffer zones anymore, which has served us so well, which will increase frictions.
The president of Finland said there at that press conference, security and stability is what it's all about. Finland.
Yeah, security and stability. Okay. Argument in the West is Putin got the opposite from invading Ukraine. He got more NATO. NATO is saying they got more defensive. The problem is we now close that buffer that made everybody more comfortable. Everybody was more comfortable with that buffer, but now there's no more buffer. Now, the real Cold War, the new Cold War starts for real. And it all begins with us. And it will end with the United States decision how we choose to lead in the matter. It's going to matter to people. Okay, it's going to matter to Russia. And Putin is a man of history. He's an intelligent man. Okay, he's a spy. He understands his strategic position of his country. He understands the vulnerability, of the Eastern Bloc. He will use this. He will use this to create chaos, and Europe will pay for it, and we will pay for it. Thank you so much for joining me and spending time with me. We are going to continue to learn more. Click on the video up here for sure, for us to continue to grow and learn together. Again, I am Fifth Sweat. All right, I am the outsider looking in. Let's keep learning. Let's keep growing. To the next video.